Since the end of the last series, The Call from Darkness, I've been looking at what to do next, and wanted to get back to what I used to do and love so much. The unsolved murder mysteries from long, long ago. No broadcasts, no cults, no strange loss of memory. Let's just examine and see if we can solve a murder mystery. It will soon be obvious to you, my dear listeners, that I'm alone on this one. I don't want to speak too much for her, but Harry, well, she couldn't leave some of last season's questions unanswered. I haven't spoken to her in quite some time now, but I'm sure we can press on as best we can. Welcome to the podcast. I'm calling this one The Dunwich House Mystery. Let me start like I used to, by telling you a little story. In 1901, in the Whitechapel district of London, a girl was born called Maria Barlow. She grew up in Whitechapel, which for those who don't know was a pretty rough part of London at the time. As far as I can tell, she moved around quite a lot with her family, large at first, though it seemed to get smaller as time went on. Maria eventually got regular work in a gentleman's club of some kind. However, sometime in the 1930s she was found dead in her home. That's the mystery we are looking into. Her death is a mere footnote on the internet, as is her life. While I grant you that her life probably wasn't remarkable, it's still worth our time to find out not only about her death, of which I found no official investigation, but also of her life. So, I've come to one of my favourite places, the office of the National Archives. So for people who don't know, not everything is actually on the internet, but everything officially recorded is here somewhere. I'm looking for all the records of Maria Barlow. I already have a birth date and place, but I'm more interested in where and who she was at the time of her death. So here is a marriage record. 1933 to a Thomas Carter. I wonder if I can find more on... Shh. Sorry. I must remember that I'm in what is essentially a library. Now, I wonder if I can find a death certificate. Knowing that she was married in 1933 helps narrow the search dates for her death. Wait, what's this? A record of birth. Henry Carter, 1935. It didn't even occur to me that she would have had a family of her own. Oh, here's a certificate number 35. I'm going to need a hand finding the actual certificate. Excuse me.
Can I help you, sir?
I hope so. I've got a certificate number and would like to see the actual certificate, please.
Shouldn't be a problem. Do you want to come back or wait while we get it? Shouldn't be too long.
I'll wait if it's okay.
I'll be back, sir.
I wonder if the family's still around. Unfortunately, I won't really be able to find out in the records because they're all sealed for a certain amount of time if people are still alive. But I wonder if I could find anything that is just publicly available. I have a sense that if they're around I should try and get in touch. Seems I should ask permission or let them know before I release the episodes.
She asked for saying like Black Widow being weird.
Thanks for this. I know you must be really busy.
It is why we are here, sir. Here's the death certificate you asked for.
October 19th, 1935. Registered by her husband, Thomas. No surprise. But here's something interesting. Cause of death. Suicide whilst of unsound mind. So Maria ended her own life. Is there a record of where she was buried? Is it true that people who took their own lives couldn't be buried on consecrated ground?
We get this a lot, Mr. Chambers. Before 1822, some people who killed themselves were buried at crossroads, maybe even with a stake through their heart.
My God.
It was a different time, but in 1823, Parliament passed an act that allowed for burials in consecrated grounds at night without a Christian service. This was changed again in 1882 to allow for daytime burials without a Christian service. Of course, it wasn't until 1961 that suicide was decriminalized.
So she might have been buried in a church or graveyard.
In fact, she was buried in Highgate Cemetery.
Wow. So again, for those who might not know, Highgate Cemetery was one of the new cemeteries of London, consecrated, sometime in the 1800s?
In fact, interred at the Carter family vault. Seems the Carters were well-to-do.
What's this? Curwen? Olney? I can't make out the rest.
Oh, that's just, office markings for the archives.
So after a few hours at the archives, I found Maria got married in 1933 to Thomas Carter, some well-off family, and then had a son, Henry, in 1935, before ending her own life the same year and being buried in the Carter family vault in Highgate. I have an even stronger urge now to find any descendants. I still haven't found anything on her actual death. What I first read was that she was found at home, alone, and it was unexpected, but there was no record of an investigation, which is why I thought it worth looking into. I think I need to do some searching around for the family and see if I can get hold of any investigation that might have happened. And I didn't really believe that those names written in the corner of the death certificate were just archive-related. It turns out Curwen, Olney and Marsh were solicitors, and the office still exists today, so I'm going to give them a call. I spent a few days across searches, the archives, and firing off a few emails. I found nothing except an obituary in the newspapers at the time, but no mention of the funeral, probably due to the suicidal nature of her death. But there seems to be no mention anywhere of an investigation into that death, and as for her surviving family, there's nothing. And then came the call to the solicitors. I explained who I was and what I was doing, and was passed around several times.
Hello, my name is Joseph Curwen. I am a senior partner in Curwen, Olney and Marsh Solicitors. How can I help you?
Mr. Curwen, I'm sorry, I didn't expect to be put onto one of the senior partners. You must be very busy, sir.
That's quite all right. Now, I understand you are asking about Maria Carter, and somehow you've been led to believe that we have something to do with her estate?
That pretty much sums it up. The estate isn't really my concern, though. I'm more interested in Maria herself and what happened.
Well, I'm not really sure what to tell you. Obviously, I cannot betray confidential information. And we did represent the Carter family back in the 1930s, even before my time. And we still hold the estate for them.
Has it not been passed on to the heirs?
Unfortunately, I cannot talk about that.
Well, what about the investigation into her death? There doesn't seem to have been one.
Things were very different back then. The paperwork was probably lost somewhere. But I couldn't speak to that, obviously, just an observation. I think, given the situation, your podcast may well be better off doing another topic.
Well, thank you for your time. I still have some leads to follow on this, so I'm sure the podcast will be fine.
Just thinking of what is best for you, Mr. Chambers. I must go.
I got the impression that there was more to this, and the impression of a law firm still protecting a death that was not investigated sounds too interesting to pass up. They'll never talk to me again, obviously. I'm going to track the family down. I didn't really know what else to do, so I came here to the Carter family vault in Highgate. It's strange, but I feel I need to get this lady's story out there, to find out what happened. But I also thought I could get a few more names to help me find anyone who is still around. There are a lot of names. There's Maria, Thomas, loving parents of Henry. Henry died in 2013. Loving father of Gillian Carter. Looks like Gillian is who I should be looking for. But there are more names. 2013. 11 years ago. There's fairly fresh scrape marks on the stone near the door. I don't know how long they would wear away. Has someone been here?
Mr. Chambers, I have information which you might find informative. Meet me at 1 a.m. at the old Dunwich House on Tilling Avenue. Don't be late.
It felt alright a few hours ago to be coming here to meet this person. Now, standing here, I feel like I might have been wrong. It's after 1 now and no one is here.
Mr. Chambers?
Oh, you startled me. You're the one who called?
Yeah. No names.
Okay, but how did you know what I was doing? And how did you know to call me?
I work for Curwen only in Marsh. They aren't telling you the whole truth, Mr. Chambers.
Well, I gathered as much.
They covered up Mrs. Carter's death in 1935, and they don't want you sticking your podcasting nose in. They want to find the rest of the family.
To give them the rest of the Carter estate?
No. To take it back.
You seem to know more about the Carter family than your employers do. How?
Let's just say I didn't get the job at Curwen only in Marsh by accident. The name you're looking for is Gillian Rice. Dr. Gillian Rice. Maria Carter's granddaughter.
Where can I find her?
It was here, you know. That Maria...
This is the Carter family mansion. Just who are you?
An associate. My family used to work for them. For a long, long time.
Do you know what happened to Maria Carter?
She hardly ever left the house.
Do you keep in touch with the family?
In a manner of speaking?
They covered up the investigation into Maria's death, didn't they? Curwen and his associates.
Maria's just a portrait on the wall of Dunwich House, collecting dust. Just like any investigation that may or may not have happened.
Okay. Dr. Rice, then. If you're so worried about Curwen, Ollie and Marsh finding Dr. Rice, why are you telling me this now?
Things are changing. It doesn't really matter. I think they're onto me and suspicious. They're signs they may have found her or certainly closing in on her. And I think you can help, Dr. Rice. Get there before this goes out.
How can I get in touch with you if I need to?
You can't. Tomorrow I vanish, and if you haven't found Dr. Rice before this goes out, then you will never find her.
Needless to say, the shock of where Dr. Rice was is still making me shake. I had never expected it to lead to where it eventually did. I knew that I wasn't going to slow the podcast down, so I had to move fast. The first thing I did was to ring where she worked. I called Miskatonic University in Arkham.
Eric, it warms my heart to hear from you.
I had contacted Dr. Armitage after the last series. It was a brief conversation about Harry, but I never imagined that I would be in touch with him again. It's an amazing coincidence, but I was trying to reach Dr. Gillian Rice.
Yes, Dr. Rice is a colleague of mine. She isn't available right now. She's doing some vital field work for the department.
I feel like I really need to talk to her. Perhaps even warn her.
Warn her?
Possibly. It seems a law firm is after her, perhaps one who is working a little outside the law. Curwen, Olney and Marsh?
Excuse me. Did you say Curwen, Olney, and Marsh?
Yeah?
I know these people. I think perhaps you might be better coming to see us.
Us?
I'd rather not discuss it on the phone, but they have crossed my desk recently.
Looking for Dr. Rice?
As luck would have it, it seems not so. But looking for something in my possession.
You don't mean...
I'm afraid so. It is not unusual for people to come looking for it, but I cannot believe it is a coincidence.
What would they want with it?
Will you come? I'll explain when you get here. But they were representing a client who has grown wearisome to manage.
I'll come as soon as I can. Hearing this certainly took the wind out of me. The last series came flooding back, and I knew I didn't want to go anywhere near anything like that again. I immediately wanted to talk to Harry, but knew that it would be useless. A big part of me wanted to run and hide and abandon all this, but I couldn't. I knew I couldn't. I wanted to find out what happened to poor Maria Carter. If I didn't feel like I had already put her granddaughter, Dr. Rice, in danger, maybe I would have stopped here. But I knew that I had to carry on. I said I wanted to find out, and if it leads me back to places I've feared to return, then so be it. And I have to admit, working on this for the last couple of weeks, I'm feeling connected to Maria. She deserves to have her story told. The Dunwich House Mystery was made for the Darkest Page podcast. The official was played by Landon Harp. Joseph Curwen was played by Hedge T. Haiden. The Mole was played by Avil Ly, and Henry Shee as Dr. Henry Armitage. The Dunwich House Mystery was produced by Benny Dogman and written and directed by the host.